My name is Ellie Carlos, my pronouns are they, she, and I made this ID badge with the Pronoun ID machine. The Pronoun ID machine is a game where you can make a character in your likeness, add your pronouns, and decorate an ID badge. I first had the idea to make this game in Pride Month last year, and I completed the first iteration of this game in October, just in time for National Coming Out Day and International Pronouns Day, as well as Halloween, which I made a theme and tribute to in the game. You may have also seen this game at Out's Spooky Lunchtime Games event in October. Thank you to the co-leads of Out, Taylor Straight, Isaiah Tadros, and Serena Knights for letting me share this game and for your really helpful feedback. You may have also seen this game at DreamCon last month, where I was printing out physical versions of these IDs. My first inspiration for this game was to make a fun way to share your pronouns. As someone who is non-binary, I didn't realize how important pronouns were to my gender euphoria until someone used they, them pronouns to refer to me. So it's important for me to know other people's pronouns as well. People can have pronouns in their email signature, on a button on their shirt, or in their Google profile. So this is just meant to be another fun option to share. Some other inspirations for me were the dress-up and character customization games that I grew up playing. For example, my friends and I will still send back and forth links to Pick Cruise, which is a platform where artists can share their own custom character creators. Lastly, I love stickers. I love buying stickers and making stickers and putting stickers on things. I think they're neat. I made this game with Godot version 3.5 and it's hosted on itch.io. The character assets, stickers, and backgrounds were all drawn by me in Procreate, and I created the assets for the UI in Google Slides. I made this game using Godot's scripting language, GDScript. It feels a lot like Python, and in fact, Godot themselves say it's inspired by Python. You can also script using C# and C++. In Godot, everything is broken down into nodes and scenes. Nodes are the building blocks of the game, and scenes are collections or trees of nodes. This allows us to organize the game in a way that makes sense and for elements to be reused. For example, this is my main scene. It is made out of several scenes that make up the different pages of the game, as well as a color rectangle node that makes up the background. This scene is our entry point into the game, and the script attached to this scene allows us to hide and show the pages of the game. In fact, I can play this scene by clicking the button up here, and it will allow me to play the entire game. We can also go in and edit these scenes. The first scene or page after the title page is the character customizer. It's also the first part of the game that I worked on. What's nice about splitting the pages into different scenes is that it's easier to parse visually in this inspector what exactly is in the scene. If these weren't organized in different scenes, I would have to scroll a lot to find what I'm looking for. Another nice thing is that if I'm working on a specific scene, like the character customizer here, I can play just this scene and not have to navigate through the scenes that appear before it. This makes it a lot easier and quicker to debug while I was developing the game. The first thing I wanted to figure out was how to output an image with the game, as I wanted the player to be able to leave with a download of their ID. Most forums that I found online suggested taking a screenshot of the game by taking the texture of the viewport, which is the area of the game that the player can see. However, this including having to know the exact coordinates of the section of the screen that you wanted to capture. This would change depending on how big the window or screen the game was being played on, so that was a bit unreliable. I tried having an invisible rectangle node and used that rectangle's coordinates to try to capture the image, but that was unreliable as well. There is also a way to composite the textures of different nodes together into one image, but there's not a way to modulate the color of these textures in the process, so any color chosen by the player would be lost in the final image. Finally, I found that the best way to capture an image was to create an invisible viewport node that the player themselves could not see. This viewport node contained copies of the nodes that need to be captured. That includes like the face of the character and the ID badge. Then I would just capture the texture of that viewport as my final image. Another challenge I ran into was figuring out character assets that I couldn't simply stack on top of other features. For example, hair often appears in front of and behind people's faces, so hair assets had to be split into back and front images where necessary. Something I added later in the development process was facial hair. Most options like the mustaches and the bushy beard were not an issue, but this close-shaven beard was a challenge because it had to fit the shape of the head that the player chose so that it wasn't too big or too small for their face. So I added some code to the script attached to the character customizer so that the image used for the beard changed depending on which face option was chosen. Changing the color of certain character features was also quite fun to figure out. Canvas item nodes have a handy self-modulate option, which means that you can change the color of the node. Each asset that you see here is actually just black and white, and then self-modulate will change the hue depending on what you pick. Feedback I got from the co-leads of Out was to add a color picker. And Godot does have its own color picker, but it's a bit large and had more options than I needed. So I took that color picker and I chose the parts of the node that I actually wanted and hid the rest in order to get this nice simple version of it. As you can see, when I click a color, the color picker emits a signal that the color has changed so that you can see the change reflected in the character right away. The next page you see is where you can fill out the information that will appear on your ID, which is your name and your pronouns. This page is pretty straightforward, but one important feature that was suggested by Noe Martinez, thank you Noe, was to add support for accented letters, which you see down here. Last but not least is my favorite part of the game, customizing your ID. Here you can attach stickers to your ID. We have different pride flags here and miscellaneous shapes. This little duck my fiance requested, so you can thank her for that. We also have a number of DreamWorks related stickers here as well. You can just stick them on like you would in real life, just click and drag. And then if you decide you don't like it, you can click and drag it off of the ID and it'll disappear. The way that this works is that every item you see in this game that you can click on is an extension of a scene called clickable item that I created. This clickable item has a collision shape, which is how it can tell if the mouse is inside that hitbox or not. And then I wrote a script so that if you click inside it, or if you unclick or let go of the mouse inside of that hitbox, it'll emit a signal so that the game knows what to do, such as moving a sticker or placing it in a certain location. There are a number of backgrounds you can choose from as well. You can change their colors. This one is my personal favorite. And just like that, we're done. I can download my ID here and share it with my friends or even print it out. I've been referring to this as my current iteration of this game because I plan on working on it even more. I would like to optimize the game more in terms of the number and size of files it contains so that I can add even more assets without slowing the game down. I also want to add more fun details such as the ones you see here, like the floating clouds in the background and the blinking eyes. Thank you to everyone who gave me feedback on this game, including the Out co-leads in the TD department. I really appreciate you guys for making the game better. And to close this video out, I actually want to give a demonstration on how to change your pronouns in your Google profile so it'll make it easier for people to see it. So what you're going to do is go to myaccount.google.com/profile/pronouns and make sure you're logged into your DreamWorks account. So you can see here that you can choose some of the default options they have: she, her, he, him, they, them. In my case, I like to use they and she pronouns, so I'm going to click on custom pronouns and type them in. And yeah, now my pronouns are set to they, she, and anyone can see them. If I go to my profile, or if you hover over my profile, you can see that my pronouns are they, she. Thank you so much for watching and enjoy the rest of TechCon.